Once upon a time, two retired teachers decided to convert their garage into a pottery studio. Along with their daughter and son, they built a business around the idea that the world could use a little more art and a lot more artists. We're the Kaya family. Welcome to Wocky Pots. Hi everybody, how you doing? How you been? How are things? Shane and Diana here with coffee time number 68 at Wocky Pots Studio. It's a beautiful sunshiny spring day out there and we got lots to talk about. Diana, what exactly are we going to talk about today?
Well, we're going to do a review of the market. We have a question to answer this week, and we'll also be going over some new plans.
Whoop, whoop. Oh boy, It's going to be a great day and a great week.
It is.
All right, so first thing you want to talk about, the market is our big thing, right?
Yes, and probably what we're going to be talking about the most, because we do have some market tips. We're going to share the amount of pieces we sold, what was the most popular, some items that we didn't sell any of.
Right, we set up at the Chincoteague Island Farmers and Artisans Market for the first time this season. This is our second year starting out, so it was basically our 1 year anniversary of setting up at the market. And while we were setting up, one thing I noticed was that we were much more comfortable with it this year than we were last year. Last year, the first time we were setting up, we were all kind of nervous about where to go and what to do, and they gave us the same spot we had all last year, so that was fantastic. Super comfortable. And no issues at all. Went super smooth.
I knew exactly. When she said the same spot, I'm like, ooh, I know where that is.
Yep. And we are like a well-oiled machine, you guys.
Are.
Like a NASCAR pit crew.
I know,
getting everything up.
You know, and that is one thing. I know many of you have asked us to share how we set up, and we will be doing that. That's coming. We probably won't actually film the process there. We probably will just set it up here in our yard as if we were there, because I can see some of the folks going, what are you doing?
You know what, though? You say that, but there was somebody there that had a phone on a tripod.
Did they really?
And they were filming, I don't know what they weren't filming us, but they had a phone on a tripod. So I guess it wouldn't be as weird as maybe we think.
You never know. But anyway, I think I would feel more weird doing it probably than anything. So I think I'd feel better right here at home.
Yeah, well, it's all about that.
So, but yeah, so that was really good. I will say before we went, we had a few more concerns this year, just with a worry of, okay, is it going to be as busy? Is it, are we going to sell as much, and I did record every single week last year.
Right, every item that we sold, it was recorded.
I had an idea of what we should do. But I really was thinking, we're going to do like 30 to 40% less this year.
So the thing is, there's a lot of economic uncertainty going on, and we didn't know if people would be willing to spend the money on the kind of, really, when you think about it, frivolous purchases of pottery. I mean, if you can go to Walmart and buy a coffee cup for $2, why would you go to a market and spend $35 or $39 on one? But it turns out after we got everything set up, there was a huge crowd. It was a beautiful sunshiny day, and people were there.
They were, and it was such a good day that, you see my cup that I'm holding?
That's right. Diana's drinking out of her Hope cup.
I have hope for the season.
Now, we're not drinking coffee today. It's a little too late in the day for us to have coffee. Yeah. I'm drinking root beer out of one of my hand-built wine cup kind of things. Diana's drinking root beer out of her little teacup there.
I started to do tea, but I was like, I don't want anything hot.
Right. So it's a very hopeful start to the year. And now let's talk about what we actually did at the market.
So we sold 40 pieces at the market.
And that's a lot.
It really was. I mean, as the season got going last year, that was pretty much what we were.
But that was our average for a week.
Right.
As the season went on.
That's true. So it was an extremely good day. Last year's first event, we were able to pay for the entire season of 42 setups in that one day.
Right.
And, we didn't even expect to do that this year, truthfully. But we did. Again, we sold enough to cover all
That's
42
right.
days.
Our cost for setting up at the market is completely covered just from this one
Yes.
show. And it's nice to be able to do that and still have a couple $100 left over, too. That was
because
awesome.
we did. We had $250 more. So we did $250 more than we did last year. And so that was totally unexpected for me.
Last year, the cost of the setup was about even with what
Yes.
we took in that first day.
Yes.
This year we did better than last year, and it was great. It's a really great feeling.
Yes, it did make me feel a little bit more at ease. So it's not that I expect that it's going to be even better this year, but I'm now hopeful that we'll be okay.
Right.
You know, and we do have some contingency plans, you know, if we don't sell as much at the market this year.
Right. So there's a couple of things about the market that we're going to talk about. We're going to
Yes.
talk about what our biggest sellers were. And remember, just because it was the big seller Saturday, that was 2 days ago, today's Monday, just because it was the big seller 2 days ago doesn't mean it's going to be the big seller every time. It's entirely possible that we'll have a different top item every weekend.
Right. And we're not going to share every single weekend. But maybe once a month we'll share how the market's going and all, because I know a lot of you are fellow potters that do set up at markets, so you are interested in how the market is going.
You might want to know what is going better for
Yes.
us.
And I will say that we've got our top 3 items out again. And for the first market appearance at our farmers market, our number 3 bestseller was bowls. So we have a bowl on the table to show that, and we did have a larger bowl go as well as smaller bowls too.
This is probably an average size bowl,
Yes.
I would say, for what we have.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't have many smaller than this,
Yeah,
but I do have several larger than this.
Yeah.
And this was one that I'd made on the wheel, but you've got 1 or 2 hand built bowls on the table as well.
Yes.
So this was our number 3 seller. How many of those did we sell?
We sold 5 bowls.
Five bowls at the
Okay.
market.
Yes. Our number 2 seller was a new item for us
Right.
this year.
We didn't have it at all last year.
Yes. So our number 2 bestseller was the condiment dishes.
And that makes me so happy because of how fun these were to make. Remember, we threw these off the hump, and people love these little dishes. And to me, they kind of feel like almost like jewels. I mean, they're so small, and when the sun hits them, they're so pretty. But this was our number 2 seller. And how many of these did we sell?
We sold 6 of those.
6 of those little
Yes,
condiment
so that
dishes.
was fun, and people loved them. They loved the color, how they were colorful. So, and of course, our number 1 bestseller, which always seems to kind of come out, but it wasn't at the SEA event, and that is our mugs.
Right. So
So-
our mugs, and we sold a variety of different kinds of mugs. This is a wheel thrown one, but Diana's hand built mugs also sold well. So how many of those did we sell?
We sold 8. I
of these mugs.
thought it was 7. I think I told you 7 the last time.
But it's 8.
But it is 8. I went back and counted again because I was like, wait a minute, my number's not coming up to 40. And so then I realized, oh, I missed one. Okay.
And if you guys have been watching for a while, you might recall that I am on a life quest to find the perfect mug. And out of all the mugs that I've made so far, it probably comes the closest to one that I would take in and be my mug. I love the complex shape. It has different curve profiles, and this is just one of my favorite ones.
Right.
This is one of my latest mugs to have made.
Now, if you watched the coffee time where we talked about the SC event, remember I felt so bad for those little gnomes because we didn't sell any gnomes.
We'll show pictures so you know what we're talking about.
There are no gnomes on the table.
They're gone.
They're gone. Our gnomes sold out. People loved the gnomes. So, yay,
We're gonna make
gnomes.
more of those.
Yeah,
on the
and
table,
then
and easy to make.
and then it was so funny because we sold our dog bowl.
That was a surprise, you guys. Like I wasn't expecting that, but
It wasn't on the table.
a wonderful lady came up to the table and bought a bunch of our other pottery, and then she was talking about the dog bowl and how much she loved it and asked if it was for sale. How could we say no when we know we need to make more anyway?
I mean, It was filled with water. Dogs have been coming by all day long, drinking out of the dog bowl.
This is the dog bowl that I had made on the wheel, and it was sitting on the
Yes.
ground outside of our table, away from our tables just a little bit, and it was there for dogs to get drinks from as they pass by. But it's a good excuse for me to make more. In fact, I shouldn't need an excuse because everybody asks for them.
Yes.
So we definitely
She
need to
did
make
go
some.
home with a dog bowl. She waited until later in the day and came back and got it after because, as she said, well, I want the dogs to be able to have water.
Yes. So she was super nice.
Yes.
So we sold the dog bowl, but there will be more coming. In fact,
Yes.
after we're done filming today, I'm going to sit down at the wheel and I'm going to make probably 3 dog bowls on the wheel, and then we may end up hand building a couple
I
as well.
have 3 that are hand built that I shared another time
Yes,
with
that's
my
right.
rollers.
And
So
yours are slightly
mine
smaller.
are smaller. Yours will be for the larger dogs. Mine were for the smaller dogs.
I'm going to make probably 3 medium-sized ones, and I'm going to hand build a couple, at least one, but maybe a couple
Yes.
of really large dog bowls.
And I will say, one of my favorite parts of the day was seeing some of the folks that we had met last year.
Right.
Sandy, of course, showed up first. One of the
It's
first
good
ones
to see you, Sandy, if you're
coming.
watching. Good to see you.
Yes, and as she said, I watched you guys all winter long,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's wonderful to have made friends with
Mm-hmm.
people, and we had other folks come and say, "Oh, I am still using your mug."
That was nice that they got last year.
I love your mug, and the lady was so sweet, and she bought. Oh, she got one of the little condiment
Mm-hmm.
dishes, and said she was going to actually use it to put her ring in when she did the dishes.
That's perfect. It's
So
a perfect use for it.
you can use things however you want.
Right.
And that's what's wonderful.
But it was such a good
it was very
opening
nice.
day for us. And to know that we sold a couple $100 more than we did
Mm-hmm.
last year. And last year, if you remember, we were pretty gobsmacked about how well we did last year. And this year, we were hoping to do as well. And certainly not expecting to do as well. And
It was wonderful.
we did even better.
Now, we also made some new friends
Right,
yesterday, and we're super excited.
I will show a picture of their business card.
Mm-hmm.
But welcome to the Market Flotsam and Jetsam Studio.
Yes.
They are new to the market.
Yes.
They can't be new potters because they have such beautiful work.
Oh, it was beautiful. It really was. But it was great talking to
But
them.
it was great seeing them at the market and great getting some insight from them. They use a different kind of clay than we use. Fired at the same cone, but a different clay body. And I'm very interested in learning more about the brown bear clay
Yes.
that they use, also from
And
Kentucky
she
Mudworks.
did use Iceman though, so
Right.
we had, and it was funny because they are using the Kentucky Mudworks
Mm-hmm.
clays, just not always the same versions as we do. But I think you were there for her very first sale.
That's
And-
right.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, now we had mentioned about wanting to give people some tips and kind of some secret information that might help them out if they're trying to set up their own market tables. Now, we are far from experts, you guys. We have not been doing this forever, but we've done it
But this is
for
what
a year.
works for us.
Right. And our year of experience has given us a couple of insights about things that are good to think about when you're setting up your market table.
And I will tell you, it's all about variety.
And I know from my own experience from other places that I've gone to where they have potters set up, I'm less likely to stop and look at what they have if everything is the same shape and the same color. Mm-hmm. So a big thing for us is, first of all, a variety of colors. That's probably the most important thing. And every time we set up, somebody, and usually several people, comment on how bright and colorful our table is, because we don't just have one or two glaze colors.
That's it.
We have a huge span of colors.
I want to have a color for everyone. And so that means there are some times that I glaze things, and when it comes out, I don't care for it. The example being the set that you really loved.
Right, that
And
kind of rusty
I
orange.
didn't care for it at all. Well, we had a lady come up, and she
Bought 4 pieces of it, right?
She just bought it all. And I was like, okay. And see, I would never have bought that. But that's just, it's not my color.
And we'll maybe try to show a picture of that, just understand which glaze combo we're talking about. But a variety of color draws people in.
Yes, but if you only do colors that you like, then you're only going to appeal to people who like those colors. So make sure that you do use sometimes the colors that you don't like, because someone else does like them.
Right.
And so variety of color. The other thing is the variety of pieces. You want to make sure you have a variety of pieces. I think about, if you were going by and there were only mugs, well, you might not want a mug.
Right.
But,
it would be entirely possible for us to set up a whole table and sell nothing but mugs. We wouldn't sell 40 pieces in 4 hours.
Probably not. Because not everybody's looking for a mug. Somebody might need a bowl, or they might need a little condiment dish. But just make sure you have a wide variety of pieces. Useful things, maybe decorative things.
Well, a good example is these little condiment dishes, right? Nobody goes looking for a little thing like this. Like they don't they don't scan the market looking for tiny little dishes. But it's one of those things that if they see it and they pick it up and they hold it in their hand, you just kind of fall in love with it. And that's the kind of stuff you should have on your table, in addition to your staple items that people are going to want bowls to buy and to use. But also some kind of just fun or quirky, unusual items. And our little condiment bowls are exactly that. And along with that, it's nice to have a little story to tell too. So when people come up to the table and they pick these up, we can talk about Diana and I throwing these off the hump, and then we can explain what that is. You put a big glob of clay on the wheel and you throw a tiny little bit at a time, and you make a bunch of them over and over. That story also is what interests people, and they like the idea of knowing how something was made. So if you have a large variety of pieces, and some of them are a little quirky, a little weird, this little bowl here has a story. Not that anybody's ever going to buy it, because I'm not going to let them, because it's mine. But every piece has a story, and if you convey that story, then people will stop and pay attention.
Right. And then the other thing you need a variety of are prices. You need some things that are very affordable pieces, so that if there's someone walking around and they have a limited budget, they need to be able to get something.
There should be lower priced items, $5 or $10. I don't think we have any really small things out there yet, but
for us,
$10 right now
is
about the cheapest thing we have.
Yes.
And that's like if you buy 4 of these, that's what they are. They're $10.
Otherwise, if you want just one, they're $12, and that makes it something that, yes, it's a piece of pottery. They're able to hear a story about the piece, and they can still walk away with that piece of pottery even with that limited budget.
Right. So your pieces should run the gamut from easily purchased. All the way without a second thought to maybe something you have to think a little bit more about, like a $50 bowl or something like that.
Right.
I remember that one time we set up at a market and we sold nothing the entire time until this little girl came up and bought a tiny little cup for $10. Yes. And that was the only thing we sold at that entire market. That was not at the Shinkigaon Farmers and Artisans Market. But that's one of the reasons why that's our main focus for this season too.
Yes. So yeah, those are our tips. Make sure you have a variety of pieces, of colors, and of prices. And above all else, just be yourself.
Yeah.
If you're you and you're comfortable there and you're having conversations, go to enjoy the day.
Right. And tell your story. Maybe, like I can't count the number of times that I said yesterday, hey there, it's a beautiful day on Chincoteague Island. I probably said it 30 times, and I know the other vendors around me were tired of me yelling that out. But the point is, people feel welcome, and they feel like we're normal people there behind our pottery. And I think that's a key to a successful market setup.
Yeah. Yep. So those are our tips.
Yep, those are our tips. Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's move on.
But we did have a question.
That's right. I got an email
Yes.
from Kathy from Mount Olive, North Carolina.
Yay!
And Kathy was asking about how we keep our pieces flat during the making process. Now, that's a very good question because we make a lot of things that are curvy and bendy and tall like this, so we don't have to worry about keeping flat. But we also make a lot of plates and serving dishes that we do have to worry about.
Yes.
Now, we have two main ways that we use to keep things flat while they're drying. Diane, you want to go and talk about it?
And pretty much trying to keep things as flat as they are supposed to be the entire time during the making process is one of the ways to prevent things from warping.
And we need to talk about memory for just a second.
Yes.
One of the problems with clay is if you, at any time during the making process while the clay is still wet, if you bend it or curve it and then flatten it out, the clay has a memory and it will try to bend back where you bent it. And that oftentimes causes problems when you're rolling out slabs and you have to fold the slab over to move it or to whatever.
Yes.
So to mitigate that issue, the clay memory, a little bit during the drying process, we use these two different methods.
And even before this, really good compression of the clay. Compress both sides of that clay. And when I compress the clay, if it's a small slab, I don't have any problem with lifting the slab and just flipping it over. But if I'm working with a very large slab that's going to end up being a plate, I will honestly put another wear board on top and then pick up the whole boards and flip it so that even when I compress the other side of the clay, I haven't folded that.
And that keeps your fingers
the larger
from
it
poking
is,
in.
yes, the larger it is, it's going to be more floppy. So it just keeps it more straight. Now, you'll notice that this is actually a piece of greenware that is dry. And when I dry my greenware, I honestly, if it is a flat piece and I want to keep it flat, if it's small like this, and I have folded up the sides, which these sides I folded up just by bringing them up by hand.
That wasn't on a form.
No. I will then take another wear board and sit on top of it when it's able to support it, and that keeps it flat.
And we need to talk about this magical substance that our wear boards and bats are made out of. So the stuff that Diana is holding in her hands, these little rectangles of material, this is Hardy Backer board. And it is the same stuff that you buy at Lowe's or probably Home Depot as well. It's used as a backing for tile in wet environments like bathrooms. So that's where you would find it. It comes in largest sheets. I think they are 3 feet by 5 feet sheets, I think. They're not full-size 4x8 sheets, but you buy them in the bigger sheets and then you score them with a utility knife, and then you just snap them, and then you can sand the edges nice and smooth. You can make them any size you want, but they are great because the things that are on them dry at about the same rate as they would just by exposure to the open air. And that means that they tend to dry more evenly, and that also helps us prevent some cracking too.
Now, another thing you can do, especially, with a more round, larger piece, is you can put in...
That's one of my socks.
I know, it's an
one of my
old
socks.
sock, and it's an old sock filled with kitty litter.
Not used. It's brand new, clean out of the bag kitty litter.
But you could use sand, you could use rice. We happen to have a bag of kitty litter, and so we use the kitty litter, and that will hold it down and keep it from warping as well. I do find with this, I actually prefer this whenever I can. And the reason I do is because depending on this, if you don't have it completely over the bottom, you could still get some warping on a section that is not covered by this, or you could cause one of your sides to go down if your bag is a little bit too big.
And I suppose
I wouldn't use this for this. Now it's fine.
But while it was drying, that would be too large.
If
you were extremely careful, you could put a layer of canvas over your wear carefully, and then pour kitty litter into your work. But you'd have to make sure the canvas was well overhung over the edges, and because you don't want any contamination in your pieces. the cleanest and easiest method for us is to use a piece of hardybacker board on top of the and on the bottom of the piece, so it's like a sandwich.
And that works. Honestly, that works extremely well for ornaments. For cheese boards,
because they're perfectly flat, they don't have a lip at all, and it's actually required for those.
Right. For the flat charcuterie boards, it's perfect because you sandwich it, and it's still removing moisture from the clay from both sides, so it's actually drying evenly. So that's great. And then again, I have no problem bringing up the sides on a piece and laying a piece on top, and it's kind of nice because you can see whether or not you got your sides even.
Right. Now that does a great job of mitigating any warping that we get while the piece is drying.
So I think that's going to take care of everything for today.
All right, guys, listen, we are up over 700 subscribers now. We would love to get to 1,000 as soon as possible. If you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please do that. It will really, really help us out. It is a fantastic, beautiful, sunshiny day here on the Delmarva Peninsula, but no matter where you're at and no matter what the day looks like to you, hope you have a wonderful, fantastic day. For now, toodaloo, TTFN, ta-ta for now. Take care. See you later. Have a fantastic day no matter where you're at. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.